what I want to talk about is kind of the flip side of all this good news. You know, I'm friends with and follow closely people like David Icke and Whitney Webb and Catherine Austin Fitts. And all three of them are just incredibly knowledgeable, incredible researchers. And they definitely lean in the direction of blackpilling, and they're really useful in terms of creating a constant stream of very well-researched bad news. And it's critical to our waking up. And I watch carefully to see, you know, when they're looking at that much bad news and reporting on, how do they see the larger picture? Are they able to stop now and then and just really enjoy the imperfect but hugely positive changes, in my mind, that are going on? And how do they assess the future? And so I want to talk about that for a moment and then ask you all basically to consider the question, is there a larger scheme afoot that we are not seeing with all the good news about the Trump administration? So I watched a video. Well, there's another question that came in, I think from Pernilla, about, she was referring me to a Marianne Williamson video, which I had seen. And I know Marianne, and I think she's fundamentally a really good person and just really caught on the left end of a fictitious political spectrum. And I think it's really, really hard for her to see the positive things that are going on. So I felt like she was really not able to see the larger picture much at all in that video. Then I watched an interview with Catherine Austin Fitts, who is way more knowledgeable about what's really going on. And so I want to share a little bit with you, just an overview of her perspective, because I think it's really helpful. Her perspective is that if I'm representing it with sufficient accuracy, it's that the whole thing that's going on in our political world right now is a cover for the completion of what she calls the control grid. And I think we need to be very, very wary to keep seeing, is that true or not? And when she talks about the control grid, what she means is a combination of digital ID, the Stargate surveillance that now, you know, Trump and Sam Altman and Larry Ellison are talking about, this huge funding going into the Stargate surveillance system, combined with a digital monetary system, which would be something like the CBDC, combined with the mRNA vaccine, which is what what Larry Ellison is promoting, plus in her mind, the Musk, what she calls the Doge takeover of the Treasury payment systems. And I think this is the one we need to be most careful about, to make sure that Musk and Trump, in their enthusiasm, but also with their egos and their being accustomed to running the show and telling people what they can and can't do, to make sure that while they're exposing fraud in the Treasury payment systems, that they don't also try to somehow distort that payment system into a even more centralized control system without our knowing it. I don't think that's what is happening or what will happen, but we need to be very aware of it. Then more in her description of the control grid is combining social credit score, using Bitcoin to move it into the CBDC, and using cryptocurrency as the Ponzi scheme that she sees that it is, as being a mechanism for what she calls the grand swap, where you tokenize everything and then use that tokenized system to take over real assets, particularly land, nationwide. And so she's concerned that Trump fans, and these are her words, the Trump fans are failing to notice the shredding of the Constitution. So that's a very smart, knowledgeable person who's presenting that concern. I have some of that concern as well, particularly in relation to tokenization of assets and also of the whole Gaza kind of working for Israel, working for the Rothschilds scenario of taking over the Middle East as the base for the Rothschild fiat money banking system taking over the world, because they are very close to that. So Whitney Webb has talked about her main concern is the Zionist faction, and virtually every single one of the Trump appointees is a very pro-Israel Zionist, and not a single one of them has stood up against the genocide in Gaza. So that gives me concern, and Whitney Webb is concerned about that same faction doing a financial takeover through people like Howard Lutnick. And so that kind of goes hand in hand with what Catherine's talking about. And there's the danger of the executive branch becoming just a dictatorship through executive orders and so forth.